The USPS is accused of confusing voters by mailing all Americans postcards with misinformation about voting. Strange how we can magically send every American household a postcard about voting by mail, but can't manage to send a ballot. Wait, so the Postal Service can't deal with the mail they have already, according to DeJoy, but they are managing to get these to everyone. If only there was a way to identify someone who lived in a state where this advice is wrong? Maybe an abbreviation or a geographically based, numerical code. You would figure that the USPS could figure something like that out. Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold, a Democrat, said Friday that the USPS postcard was inaccurate and could be confusing to voters. I just found out the USPS is sending this postcard to every household and PO box in the nation. For states like Colorado where we send ballots to all voters, the information is not just confusing, it's wrong, Griswold said in a tweet late Friday. Griswold pointed out that voters in several states, including Colorado, would not need to request an absentee ballot because the state would be mailed to every registered voter. Business Insider previously reported most or all registered voters in California, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, Montana, New Jersey, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Washington State, and Vermont, will automatically have a ballot delivered to them via the USPS. Secretaries of State asked at USPS Postmaster General DeJoy to review a draft before election information was sent to voters to ensure accuracy. But he refused, she said. Now millions of postcards with misinformation are printed and being mailed to voters. Georgia here, both of my applications for absentee ballots came disguised as literal Trump mail. His big dumb face is printed all over them and the wording on them makes it seem like it's something asking for campaign donations. I blew them off when I saw his face, but luckily my roommate opened them before trashing them and we figured out what they were. It's so fucking sneaky and underhanded. Any chucklefuck that already likes the douchebag is gonna open it. But, I'd bet a good number of people are gonna trash it thinking it's his bullshit campaign begging, when it's reality it's their absentee ballot applications. Fuck the GOP and their sneaky bullshit. Edit, http://imager.com/gallery/KNCZ1ZD. For reference. After looking at it, it says it's from the Republican Party of Georgia. A helpful Redditor below mentioned there should be a non-affiliated ballot application that comes in from the state itself. Still seems like a shady thing to do to me though. Shit, I got that yesterday. I threw it away before reading. It's not the USPS that did this, and other nefarious actions. It's specific people within the USPS who are giving the orders to do these things. Do not let them hide behind institutional anonymity. Identify them, and make sure they suffer the consequences of their corrupt and probably illegal deeds. I got one yesterday. My husband handed it to me and I was like they mail a ballot to every registered voter in Oregon like they have since we moved here, this is weird. While the postcard says rules and dates vary by state and encourages voters to find individual state policies online, it tells voters to request their mail-in ballot at least 15 days prior to Election Day, echoing its previous guidance from July. WTF? The fuck is going on? I live in New Jersey and got one of these postcards. Says I should request a ballot. WTF? It confused me since I thought it was taken care of, plus Trump is suing New Jersey because of the mail-in ballots. So I had to double-check that I was going to automatically get a ballot. Yes, I will get a ballot in early October. Then I will drop it off at a drop box instead of mailing it. I seriously don't trust the USPS at this point. The shame is I've always had the highest regard for how well of a job they've done in the past. I just got one in the mail. They are pretty outrageous. The postcard tells people to send in ballots 7 days before the election when most states are telling voters to send them back as soon as you get them and no later than 10 to 14 days before the election. It also tells people to apply for mail-in ballots 15 days before the election when I know some states have a cut-off of a month before the election to apply for an absentee ballot. Some states don't even require voters to apply. Everyone gets an application. This is just misinformation designed to confuse voters and suppress votes. My elderly mother called me last night totally confused by the postcard. In her state, every voter will receive a mail-in or drop-box ballot, no need to request one. This is a calculated move by political appointees to create even more confusion and stress on the system. Disgusting. Secretaries of State asked at USPS Postmaster General DeJoy to review a draft before election information was sent to voters to ensure accuracy. But he refused, she said. Now millions of postcards with misinformation are printed and being mailed to voters. This is what I don't understand. Where was the harm in letting states have a look first? The flat-out refusal by DeJoy is emblematic of the entire Trump administration's obstructionist ways since he took office. And, they've shown nothing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Glad state leaders are continuing to put pressure on DeJoy. I knew the moment the news coverage moved on to the latest breaking story, they would try something underhanded. For a country that claims to be the greatest democracy in the world, it is really, really bad at democracy. State governments in charge of elections vs. a nonpartisan org, disenfranchisement at every turn, voting with machines that no one seems to know how to use. For a country that bad at elections, they also choose to bizarrely have positions like judges and prosecutors filled by popular elections. Then a governmental system with its so-called checks and balances that can't get any meaningful legislation passed or remove a racist who is destroying the country from power. It is such an absurd, broken country. I'm sorry to the sensible Americans who don't have the opportunity to leave. I ate mine. It was delicious. Jokes on them, I don't read my mail. Confusion is the entire goal of the Republican misinformation effort. It's the only way Trump can win the election. Called it. I knew they were going to interfere with mail-in votes. Next thing you know, a bunch of these mail-in ballots are going to end up being thrown out entirely. And by the USPS you mean the Republican White House, which is trying very hard to destroy the post office while making it look like a villain. It's amazing how low the GOP is willing to go. Every time you think they wouldn't dare, there we go. It isn't the USPS, it is the American traitors in the Board of Governors and their lackeys who are the perpetrators. The rank and file are red, white and blue Americans through and through. I got one of these postcards yesterday. The information was so confusing I vowed not to use the postal service for my ballot. I'm going to hand deliver it to City Hall. And now we see what happens when a government body becomes a business. A business moves to the whims of its leaders, a government moves, traditionally, to the will of the people. They sent them to US in Oregon. We've been vote by mail since 1998. Christ. USPS is not just being slowed down but being weaponized. Deliberate. If you American people can get through this time without slipping into a dictatorship, I certainly hope you can muster the resolve to make some radical changes. I would hope that there are already people hard at work with a lot, if not most of the legislation necessary, to make sweeping changes to your system of government that would be attainable if the Democrats take back all three branches of government. I'm hoping you can. The following midterm elections would likely flip one of the houses, so time would be of the essence. You cannot allow these holes that Trump is using to go unfilled. There are at least a third of your populace that are brainwashed, just waiting for the next Trump, and maybe by one or some that might be smart enough to pull it off. You also need to dump the filibuster. Regardless of what it originally intended for, it is now being abused, and if you want to move forward with real change, you have to stop the obstruction of the Republicans. Ezra Klein is talking a lot about this now, but it was obvious from back during the Obama presidency that the filibuster was something that had to go. Also, you have to do something about the actual fake news. You know who they are. I believe in freedom of speech, but I don't believe in any entity with news in its name being allowed to skew the factual authenticity of any story by manipulating it. Whether by straight-up lies, or by exclusion of negative news, a so-called news organization cannot be allowed to manipulate the facts to the benefit of one party or president. Lies cannot be an acceptable part of anyone's free speech.